This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
Hey, college football fans, I'm Matt Schick. What has gone wrong at Tennessee since the season's promising start? Everything. We talk about that and chat with Kentucky coach Mark Stoops on the latest Championship Drive podcast.
This is Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Russell waiting, drove in 95 during the regular season. The 2-0, a swing and a high fly ball. That's a grand slam.
We get to Game 7 where the Cubs get to throw what looks to be the Cy Young winner in the National League, and the Indians throwing their ace in Corey Kluber.
You made 3 career interceptions and were tackled by the quarterback all 3 times. It could have gone otherwise in the big moment.
I don't know why you have to bring up the negative part of what could have been a positive thing for me.
Because that's just how I am.
Now, here's Mike and Mike.
All right, here we are, back and better than ever. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. What a time to be a sports fan. Yeah. What a time to be alive as you watch what's going on. And obviously it's been a great year with LeBron winning and Peyton Manning winning and Sidney Crosby winning as I open the show. And now here we have Game 7 of the World Series between these two historic teams. Can Corey Kluber do it tonight for his third time on short rest, second on short rest, and a third time in the series? Can Kyle Hendricks become a hero for the Cubs tonight, etch his name in forever? Who will it be? Again, you get a game like tonight, and as I've said a million times, the courage required in being an athlete is in going out there tonight knowing that someone will be remembered forever for something that happens tonight. It may be the best moment of their careers, and it may be the worst.
Yeah, and as a Cleveland fan, obviously I wish it was over, but as a sports fan, I mean, how can you not have your popcorn ready tonight? I mean, it's just the atmosphere is going to be electric. I'm jealous of my daughter, Sydney, who started working in Cleveland in June, so she got to see the Cavs championship, the parade, and now went to Game 1 of the World Series, and now she was out last night, and all the bars are filled, and everything's filled around the stadiums. It's just an incredible atmosphere like it was in Chicago, so I'm happy all those fans get to enjoy it. So as a sports fan, what more can you ask for with this storyline and it being Game 7? Someone's finally going to overcome decades and decades and decades of not winning a World Series, so it should be fantastic. The ratings should be incredible.
Yeah, the cheering that you're hearing, you could probably still hear it, is from the suite where Rob Manfred and Bud Selig are sitting as they sit and watch this dream series go to a dream 7th game. The highest rated World Series game since 2000 got 39 million viewers. It was Game 7 of Diamondbacks-Yankees. I think they have a good chance to eclipse that tonight. We'll be wall-to-wall baseball pretty much in this hour, including Dallas Braden joining us live to break it down. We also have the college football playoff winning word coming up in 45 minutes. 9:45 Eastern, 8:45 Central. We'll give you the word. We'll give you the ways to enter. You could be coming with us to the national championship game. And with that thought in mind, let's just spend a moment or two here with our friend Paul Feinbaum from the SEC Network on what happened last night. Last night was the first rankings that the committee put out, and there was a surprise to some people that Washington, unbeaten in the Pac-12, was not one of the top 4. So let me ask it to you this way, Paul. Good morning, as always. And let's start with this. With Texas A&M being in the 4 spot right now, take out strength of record and all the rest of that. You watch this as much as anybody. In your opinion, is Texas A&M one of the 4 best college football teams in America?
I don't think they are. I would have put Washington in there, and I understand the rationale. This committee sometimes is exasperating to understand. They reset it every week, but they put A&M in there, Greeny and Mike, because A&M's overall schedule is very strong at this point in time. And I know fans get tired of hearing all this, but that's what we're talking about. This is not after 13 games. This is after 9 or 10 games. A&M played UCLA in the first game. It looked like a really good game. It didn't turn out to be that helpful because UCLA has tanked. But the Aggies are getting credit now for winning at Auburn and losing at Alabama, while Washington really hasn't done very much. Their non-conference schedule, quite frankly, is embarrassing. And the game against Utah is their resume leader right now. But it will get better for them, and that's why I don't put too much stock into A&M being in the top 4. They will not remain if nothing else happens.
Their non-conference schedule, to put some names to it, Paul, they played Rutgers, Idaho, and Portland State. So that's one of the reasons they were fifth right now. But they do have the toughest remaining schedule among the unbeatens, according to ESPN's FPI. So as we all know, if they keep winning undefeated, that'll take care of itself. They're going to be in there. So we know that. We know the teams that they stay undefeated are going to stay in there. But if they don't, when you saw these ratings, which team did you see positioned where they were in the best position to be able to make a move into that four, outside of Washington, which we know they can if they go unbeaten?
I mean, I thought Louisville was the big loser because Louisville now doesn't have much to show. Louisville's big win is against Florida State, and that becomes not as impressive as FSU has now lost 3 times. If you look at it, there's some intriguing matchup. There's some intriguing names in there. Auburn, Penn State. These are schools that LSU, schools we left for dead earlier in the year. But Florida from the 11 position can work itself back very easily by winning out. They would be the SEC champion. Ohio State controls its own destiny to a degree. They play Michigan at the end of the year. If they're the Big Ten champion, no one's keeping them out. So, I mean, I look at those two. There are a lot of SEC and Big Ten schools that can make a way up, but I don't think there are a lot of paths. And I think one of the most intriguing conversations is what happens if Alabama loses Saturday night to LSU, or if Alabama goes undefeated and then loses to a good Florida team in the SEC championship game. Are they still one of the best teams in the country? And the answer is yes, in my mind.
Top 13 teams, 10 are 5 are in the Big Ten, 5 are in the SEC, 2 in the ACC, and 1 in Washington. In the Pac-12, one conference I didn't mention, they're 14th, the first one there, Oklahoma. Big 12 out, they eliminated in your mind?
I don't see any path for Oklahoma to make it back in. They lost to Houston, which is cratered. They were blown out by Ohio State. So the Big 12, you could move them aside, and certainly the Pac-12, I think what they lost by Washington is on life support. So you're really talking about the ACC with one main entrant in Clemson, and then it's a battle between, guess who, the Big Ten and the SEC, the two conferences you expect to be up there.
Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Paul Feinbaum of the SEC Network with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And in the conference, you get the huge game now. Alabama-LSU has become one of the signature rivalries of the sport. And Ryan Clark was in here the other day. Now, granted, he's got, he has a horse in the race, if you will. But he predicted it on our show that LSU is going to knock off Alabama this weekend. How likely do you think that if I told you, give me the chances of LSU winning at home?
Listen, my friend, stick to the NFL, okay? Leave college football to us. Greeny, I don't see it. I really don't. And I think you start off with the quarterback situation at LSU, Etling. I just don't think he's quite up to the task. I mean, Mike, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but that Alabama defensive line may be the best I have ever seen. Jonathan Allen has not been stopped all year long, and I think they're going to blow past him. I'm not saying this is going to be a blowout. It's in Tiger Stadium, and every game since 2008 has either gone to overtime or a last possession. It's that close in this series. But this Alabama team is rested, and I frankly am not buying all the hype that my friends all over the country are trying to turn this game into. It would be a decent game, but it will not come down to the final play.
Couldn't agree more with you, Paul. Absolutely agree. A team that can, if there's a team beating Alabama, it's going to be more of that spread team with that QB that can run. And while the LSU offense has gotten better, it isn't that type of an offense.
And give the coach credit. I mean, he saved the season. I give Ogeron a world of credit, but I don't think this is the game that Alabama is going down. I really think the most dangerous game for Alabama is Auburn in the Iron Bowl, and I could not have predicted that 6 or 7 weeks ago. We were talking about Gus Malzahn's future. Now we're talking about them being maybe the last hope to stop the Tide.
Well, we'll find out this weekend.
Ed Ogeron, I think, will go in the interim head coaching Hall of Fame because
he's earned it.
Yes.
Thank you,
Best
Paul.
Of all time.
We'll talk to you next week.
Paul.
Thank you. Paul Feinbaum with us from the SEC Network, brought to you by Goodyear. Tires as hardworking as college football's most blimp-worthy athletes. Goodyear, official sponsor of the college football playoff. I mentioned ratings a moment ago. We just got, while we were talking to Paul, I was given the ratings for last night's game. They did a 14-8 rating, which is a monster rating considering how one-sided the game was. Mm-hmm. We know that they had done a 15-something the night before, right, to 15-2 2 nights before. Last night's game is 7-0.
I'm amazed.
Early
Sunday
on.
night with a football game, they did a higher rating than they did last night.
Because Sunday night's a great TV night. It's a close game.
Yeah, well,
last night is a blowout game.
Yeah.
I think that to do a 14-8 in a game that was I'm not going to say it wasn't competitive, but the score was certainly one-sided.
Yes, it was.
Just about the entire night is a very good rating. If you want to compare that, you can't compare it to last year because there was no Game 6 last year. So you have to go back 2 years to Game 6, San Francisco, Kansas City, and you want to talk about a huge difference.
Wow.
Now, obviously, the markets are totally different, but that game did under a 9 rating. That game did an 8.9 for Game 6, Giants-Royals. Last night did a 14.8. Tonight's rating, over under 20.
I don't know if it gets that high. I don't know.
I
Game
don't. 7 Wednesday night. Clear
I hope
the
it
decks.
does. Yeah, I mean,
if it's a close game, again, the scores of these games make a
big difference
because a lot of people are tuning in, and then if it's a blowout, they don't stay with it.
I think it'll be odd because I'll be stunned if with these two pitchers, either batting order is lighting it up, and getting 2, 3, 4 runs at a time.
I agree. I've been stunned before, though.
Yeah.
So you never know.
I was stunned last night watching a routine pop up in the outfield, so you never know.
That's one of those moments. I know I say this a lot. That's one of those moments where you start thinking to yourself, some things are just meant to happen. Like, you're not supposed to have a ball drop like that in Game 6 of the World Series. And if you're a Cubs fan, maybe you're thinking, oh, wait, we just hit a home run. We're just supposed to win this game.
No such thing.
You don't believe in
You know
fate.
what went out the window? When Notre Dame went undefeated in 2012, my kids on the team, a good play here, fortunate play there, great play there. Sometimes you need a little luck as well to go undefeated. It's fate. It's their year. What happened in the national championship game?
I understand that.
There is no fate. There is no fate.
But they got,
There's no sports.
They got to play for a championship.
So what? They didn't win it. No, there's no fate. There's no this is our year. This is going to happen. Bah humbug.
Is that seriously what you said to your kids after the game was over? So what? You didn't win it?
No, the first thing I said to them is, man, you guys got rolled.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I remember the next morning.
At that point, what are you going to say?
Well, you've told me many times.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know what we're talking about, Golick's Sons were on the Notre Dame team that went unbeaten and lost at Alabama, and to be kind, a very one-sided game.
2012.
In 2012. To give you an indication of how one-sided that game was, my wife Stacy came to support you guys, to be there for the game, and we were sitting in a Notre Dame section. We were sitting with a lot of Notre Dame fans, and midway through the first quarter. Stace, she knows football, but she doesn't know it like an analyst, turns to me and she says, is it my imagination or is the other team just much stronger than they are? I was like, no, it's not your imagination.
Hey, Stace, why don't you keep your opinions to yourself?
The running back is running through them and over them and on them in ways that are very bad. But whatever, the point of it is, you've told me that when you were a player, your wife was very harsh in her assessment of your performance. She was
honest. There was where you play. You have a player's lounge after the game where the wives will hang out during the game sometimes, if you want to hang out in there, especially if you have kids or something more. And then after the game, that's where you meet up. And, when we were or anywhere we were really, sometimes the player will come up if it's after a tough game. Some of the wives will be, that's okay. You guys should have won or this could have happened.
No, you played well. It was a tough day. Get them tomorrow.
Chris is pretty honest. I come up, she goes, man, you guys stunk tonight. You guys didn't deserve that one. They played way better than you. She wasn't mean. She was just honest. It just seemed mean at the time.
So I remember that night,
honest,
the night that you guys that Notre Dame got blown out in that game. I didn't see you right after the game, but we met on South Beach at 6 a.m. the following morning to do the show.
Yeah,
I don't think you had slept.
I had not.
But you showed up, and I opened the show by I said, "I'm going to do what everyone in America wants to do right now," and I gave you a hug.
Yeah.
But what did you say to them?
Well, because the game was the way it was, when they came out of the locker room, it was just like, wow. Do you believe what just happened? It wasn't like it was a close game and you could really get into and kind of start to break down the game. We did that later. I think it took Mike over a year to even watch the game again. But after a game like that, you always ask, is it better to get blown out, not be in it, or go down to the last-second field goal? And any player in the world will tell you they would have rather had that game if you lose it in a last-second field goal. But they were blown out in that game, so it kind of really makes talking about the game a little easier. There's not like, oh, man, that one play there. If you'd have had that. For that game, it was like, man, if you guys had those 20 plays,
right.
See? It may have been a game.
I told you a blowout loss is better than a close loss.
It's not.
You just acknowledged without meaning to that it is. Okay, Mike and Mike, so give me the TV rating again for Game 7 of the NBA Finals. So we got, again, it's the first time since 1962 that the NBA and Major League Baseball both go 7 games. Game 7 of the NBA Finals, Cleveland, Golden State. So what you could describe as a dream NBA final, Golden State, which was the team of all teams, you could sort of compare that. What are you doing? What is it?
31 million.
31 million people, yeah. So, but the dream team, which the Cubs are, right?
Yeah,
the Cubs are the dream team in the way that Golden State is for the NBA. And the other side, you've got Cleveland, which you have here. Now, they had LeBron, the biggest star in the sport. You don't have that. But so there's a lot of sort of similarities. Game 7 of the NBA Finals did an 18.9 rating, 31 million viewers. Go over under tonight. 18.9 rating, 31 million viewers. I'm going to say they go over viewers. And I'm going to say that they go over on the rating.
I think I'm going to say over on both as well. This is just too big a storyline.
That was a pretty big, again.
No, that was.
It's all of 4 months ago.
Listen, it
but
was.
LeBron against Steph.
It was.
And they had won 73 games.
It was a rematch. Listen, you couldn't have picked a better NBA final. Right. But then in baseball, could you have picked a better World Series?
Well, as we've said, Cubs anyone.
Right, but Cubs, Cleveland,
Yankees,
just Cleveland,
Cubs,
Yankees because of the market. I get that.
Cubs, Red Sox start. I think before the postseason started, we were saying the dream World Series is Cubs, Red Sox. Now, as the Indians have gone on, and this whole Cleveland thing has sort of turned into a good
just
thing.
Winning, and can they continue to win and all that? I think it became a great storyline. But I acknowledge the Cubs are driving this. I do get that. So I would probably go over on both.
I think it's going to go over on both. Okay, let's hear from some of our analysts coming off of last night. Fascinating in a variety of ways. We haven't played Raul Ibanez. I think that's really interesting because how last night influences tonight. And the Cubs and Joe Maddon's use of his bullpen last night could have an indirect effect on the bullpen tonight. The direct effect is that Chapman pitches. He throws 20 pitches last night. So that's a direct effect.
Yes.
Whatever impact it has on his effectiveness, that's a direct effect. The indirect effect of that usage of Chapman last night is Maddon basically saying to his other relievers in a big moment,
not trusting you.
I'm not giving you the ball. And that's what Raul Ibanez was talking about after the game last night.
Coming in early, I absolutely agree with what Joe Maddon did because that's what you've been doing. You bring him in the 7th inning. You got to win this game or there is no tomorrow.
Exactly.
But you heard Joe Maddon come out and say, and he was completely honest and straightforward, it kind of snuck up on us. I didn't have time to warm somebody up, and you send him out there. But again, I will say this. It has a lot to do with not trusting anyone else in that bullpen that's not named Aroldis Chapman.
And not only does Raul Ibanez know that, and you and I know that, but those guys know that.
Sure, that's exactly right.
That doesn't mean they're not going to go out there and do their job tonight. It doesn't mean they're going to be so mad. And none of that. But what psychological impact does that potentially have if one of those guys is needed tonight?
Well, it first goes to Kyle Hendricks. How far he knows he needs to go a decent way into this game, right? I mean, that's the one luxury you have in Cleveland is if for some reason you're off a bit. I'm not saying giving up a ton of runs, but just not on for Corey Kluber, not on as he normally would be. Man, if you start to go to that bullpen with and what they have, in Miller and Shaw and Allen and whatever way Francona wants to use them, you got some power there. The Cubs, it's a different story, right? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious if for the Cubs to win, Kyle needs to go decent into the game, right? Certainly farther than Kluber.
Well, the question is, if he doesn't, is Lester the first guy out of the bullpen?
But that's the question. See, in Cleveland, there's no questions. There's no questions who they go to, or Terry Francona has hit the right moves with those.
Right.
So that's what I mean.
They're going to Miller. Your point is 100% right.
Yeah.
They're giving the ball to Miller.
Especially
if
with
it's the fourth
lead.
inning.
Oh, my God. And they're up 1-0 or one, even tie ball game or up. I mean, yeah, it goes right in his hand. So Kluber there isn't that pressure. Now you'd love to say, I'm on, just keep me in, but the pressure's not there. Kluber gives him 4 innings? I mean, if you're an Indians fan, you taking that 4 shutout innings or 1-run inning? 1 run in 4 innings, you take that, right? Sign up for that.
You would run all the way to the bank with that.
In a minute. They need Hendricks to go more than that.
Here's what I'll say, too, about Hendricks. I was at the game Friday night. He was as good on the week before Saturday, Game 6 of the series against the Dodgers, he was as good as you can be. He was unbelievable.
He does have a 15-inning scoreless streak
right,
going.
but let me make my point. It's only 15 innings for a reason. He was brilliant in Game 6 against the Dodgers. That was the game where they were 27 up, 27 down. He pitched into the 8th inning. Friday night, Joe Madden took him out of that game in the 5th inning with the bases loaded and 1 out. And they got an inning double play, and they got out of it, and they wind up winning without giving up a run. That was the 1-0. Losing a 1-0 game. But Hendricks didn't give up the run. But for what it's worth, he came out of that game in the 5th inning with the bases loaded and 1 out.
Right.
So that wasn't a brilliant performance. We're talking about a 15-inning scoreless streak, but he didn't give you length that night, and he wasn't killing them. They had a chance to score. Remember that game? This is the Hendricks game. The Indians have 1st and 3rd and 1 out in the 1st inning, and they get picked off at first.
Right.
Remember that? They had a pickoff play at first base. Was it Lindor who got picked off at first now? I think it was Lindor. Gets picked off at first. They had to go to a replay. Remember, they call him safe, and then he's out, and the ballpark goes crazy. They get out of that inning. Then they have bases loaded and 1 out in the 5th. Out goes Hendricks. They come in, they get a double play, and the game winds up 1-0. So, yes, he has this scoreless streak, and, yes, he was brilliant. He was not brilliant Friday night.
Right.
So, let's see. I don't know what that portends for tonight. I have no idea.
One other quick note is you mentioned Lindor and made me remember, because I think it is today, he stole a base in the first game. I think today between 2 and 6 is free taco day.
Tacos.
There you go.
The fact, your team is about to play Game 7 of the World Series. Your city could wind up winning 2 championships in a 5-month stretch after having gone 50 years without one. But Golick is excited about the
free taco.
Dallas Braden will join us next to break down everything about this series. He's really, really good, particularly when it comes to the pitching. And again, in 25 minutes, 9:45 Eastern, 8:45 Central, we're going to give you the winning word. We're going to give you the ways to enter. You could be winning a trip with us to the College Football National Championship game. All that still to come. Right now, a word from Straight Talk Wireless. Other wireless providers say, Mike, they're going to cut your bill in half. But who knows what kind of coverage you're going to get.
When you switch to Straight Talk Wireless, you get nationwide coverage on America's largest, most dependable 4G LTE network. Still save on your wireless bill every month. Get the unlimited plan for $45 a month. No contracts, no credit checks, no mystery fees. Straight Talk's bring your own phone plan. How about this? You can keep your phone, your number, even your network when you switch. Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, half the cost. We're back after this on Mike and Mike.
Russell Waiting drove in 95 during the regular season. The 2-0, a swing and a high fly ball. This one's hit a long way. Left center field. That's a grand slam. Russell blows it open. He's got 6 RBIs. And it's 7-0 Cubs here in the 3rd.
That's sort of how it went last night. The Cubs get the win that they desperately need to force tonight's winner-take-all Game 7. Coverage starts on ESPN Radio, 7 o'clock Eastern, coast to coast. It should be about as good as it gets. We've been sitting here playing Guess the Rating.
Yeah.
I think it's going to beat the NBA Finals Game 7.
I do, too.
Which was an 18-9 rating and 31 million viewers. I think they're going to go to 40 million viewers tonight and do a 20 rating tonight for Game 7.
That'll be incredible. Really, really well.
And good for them.
Yep.
It's been a great year for the sport. And also quickly last night, Alabama, number 1 in the first college football playoff rankings. No surprise there. Clemson, Michigan, and Texas A&M rounding out the top 4. SportsCenter brought to you by Campbell's.
When you need something hearty to fuel up fast, grab a can of Campbell's Chunky Soup, packed with a big chunk of meat and vegetables, now in 50 flavors. Campbell's Chunky Soup. A hearty way to fuel your game. Find your flavor at Chunky.com.
All right, we are Mike and Mike. The World Series, as we've mentioned all along, has been as good as it can possibly get. And joining us now is our friend Dallas Braden, who does a terrific job in analysis for us in Baseball Tonight and everybody else these days, and particularly when it comes to the pitching. Dallas, good morning, and thanks for doing this.
Good morning, boys. How are we doing?
Good. Well, how much better could we possibly be doing than this? So let's go through a variety of different things. Let's start with Kluber, who was so good in Game 1, and then, again, very good, if slightly less unhittable in Game 2. And that was on short rest, or game 4, I should say, but in his second game. And now another one on short rest. You're a pitcher. What is a realistic expectation from Kluber tonight?
I am a pitcher. Corey Kluber is a different type of human being altogether. So from my perspective, my arm's falling off. I'm knocking over people to get to the Advil, et cetera, et cetera. If I'm Corey Kluber, this is what I'm built for. This is what I put all the hard work in the offseason for. They talk about resting in the offseason. That's when I'll take a blow. Right now, I fully expect, if I'm Corey Kluber, to take the mound prepared with adrenaline, motivated by a lack of championship smell in my clubhouse since at least 1948. There's a lot of things that I've got behind me. Momentum and preparation, I think, are the two biggest things, because that's one thing Corey Kluber is. He's always prepared, and there's nothing you can do when a guy like him is motivated and prepared at the same time. It's going to be a very dangerous road to hoe for the Chicago Cubs.
Because of what they have in the bullpen coming out at really any time, what would, in your mind, be considered a success for Kluber's, how far he goes in the game?
I think, in my opinion, 5 innings. 5 innings out of Kluber would be a success, just because of how Tito has shown the ability to match up and plug and play. We talk about high leverage situations, and anywhere you think about where Miller has come in, no later than the 7th inning and as early as the 5th inning to clean up a mess and gone on to give you 2+ if necessary. So he has, Francona, the ability to match up very early on, and this has been the recipe for success since the Royals started their run. We've got to turn this into a 6-inning affair, and if anything, that's what Francona has the opportunity to do. So a slight edge over Madden, as we saw last night.
Mike Dallas Braden is with us. This one's for the advanced class only, but I was talking to Rob Dibble recently about pitching, and he said that when you're tired, when your arm is tired, sometimes your curveball is better. Do you expect Kluber, who was very heavy with the curveball in Game 4, more of that tonight based on perhaps a tired arm, and sometimes that can give you an edge?
Well, I think what Dibbs is probably talking about is simplifying things. You're fatigued. You're not trying to do any more than you're capable of. You know exactly what it takes to deliver, to release. So in that regard, I think it's a simplification mentally for Kluber. And obviously, if you can slow the game down and simplify it in a Game 7 situation, that bodes extremely well. So I think that's probably where Dibbs is coming from. You're talking about a guy in himself who could pump up and blow cheese by anybody when necessary. So having a feel throughout the game is a little different. But that being said, if he can simplify it, I think they're going to be okay.
So now from the Cubs side and what Kyle Hendricks has behind him, what in your mind would be a success for how far he would go into the game?
I hate to ask more of Kyle Hendricks, but I think he has welcomed that responsibility unquestioned. He had a tremendous season. He can get deep into a ball game. Madden hadn't necessarily given him that long leash throughout the course of a season. Not many outings over 105 pitches, but if it's going to be successful for me, he's got to be able to shorten that bridge to a seemingly available Chapman, and he's got to give me at least 6 innings. I know it's a tall tale. There hasn't been a starter complete 6 innings, I believe, this World Series. That hasn't happened ever. So, hey, why not in Game 7?
And how about the first man out of the pen? So I'm just making up a scenario now because it's fun to think about. If you get 5 innings out of Hendricks tonight, is the first pitcher you give the ball to after that John Lester?
Well, you know, that raises a very interesting question, because if so, where does Lester come into the game? Obviously, you'd like to put him in a position of length. He may not be a guy that you're going to need just one batter. You've got other guys down there for that. But for me, John Lester, the earlier in the game he appears, the more trouble the Cubs are in, obviously. And you also have to, as a reliever, there's 3 things you have to do in the game of baseball. You have to come in spinning your breaking ball for a strike. You absolutely have to field your position. These are high-leverage situations. They're looking to put pressure on the defense. And you must, it is an absolute must, you must control the running game. And the last 2 things I just mentioned, John Lester is not very good at all. So I'd be a little hesitant to put him in the game in a situation where they're looking to create offense, where they're looking to force pressure on the defensive side of the baseball. John Lester is not the guy I want fielding a bunt. He's not the guy I want controlling the running game. So if we see Johnny Lester, it's going to be early, but it's not going to be a good sign for the Chicago Cubs.
Dallas, early effect in a game. We were talking about this before. The misplayed pop-up in the first inning where the Indians could have got out of that inning down 1-0 and said it was 3-0. Now, of course, we see the grand slam 2 innings later, and it's a 7-0 game. But how could that be different, or how could it be different if that routine fly ball is caught and they do get out of the inning with 1 inning? I know you can still have the grand slam and all that, but what are the differences if they got out of that inning 1-0?
Well, one, from a pitcher standpoint, you've now minimized the damage. You were in a situation where things could have started to steamroll and snowball on you. You effectively put an end to that. You minimized the damage. So now you go into that next inning with a little bit more confidence, or in a little different position mentally than you may have ended it after the merry-go-round starts and you see the defensive miscommunication go on behind you. And also you feel like, hey, we're still in this ball game. It's not about things are just going to happen. You know, if it can, it will. We are in a position to still win this ball game, as opposed to having the feeling of Sisyphus looking up this giant mountain, pushing a boulder with no end in sight.
Do you have a feel for it one way or the other? I mean, clearly an argument can be made, or a decision can be made in either direction as you project what we expect tonight. Do you have a feeling one way or the other?
I feel like Corey Kluber is going to put an end to the drought for the baseball championships in Cleveland. I don't know if the Cubs bullpen just has enough energy to tread water for full 9, and it's going to be deep water in these championship games.
Dallas is great stuff. Yeah. Thank you so much. We really appreciate this. We'd love to do it again soon.
Thanks, Dallas.
Great insight. Thank you so much. Enjoy the game.
Always. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Thank you, Dal. I really like him a lot. He's got really good energy and really good insight, and you heard him going over with Kluber there and all the things. I think that's right. I'm rooting for the Cubs. I've made no secret of it. I would root for the Indians against practically anybody else because I really like Terry Francona, and they're an easy-to-like team. There's a lot of guys on that player that are easy to like. But with all of my connections to Chicago, I'm rooting for them. I genuinely believed after Game 4 the Cubs were going to come back because of the pitchers. Going into tonight, having watched Hendricks pitch on Friday night and having seen what we've seen from Kluber in back-to-back games, I'm a lot less confident about
what Kluber can do for himself. I know it's a team game, but personally, when you're thought of, if he were to win 1-4-7 and win the World Series and help win the World Series for the Indians, I mean,
I'd be winning. Listen, you win games 1-4-7, you have won the World Series for your team.
Unbelievable. I mean, it would really, really be incredible. So.
Bumgarner 2 years ago, he won 3. Did he get a? Did he win the 7th game, or he got a save for the 7th game?
I think it was a save in the 7th.
Just quickly pull up Bumgarner in the World Series a couple of years ago, because that was the one that was as good as anything I've ever seen.
It's exactly right. It was, but I think it was a save then.
He didn't start Game 7.
No,
we know that for sure.
Right.
He pitched 5 innings in relief.
Right.
So we'll get Bumgarner's numbers in that one for you quickly. That was about as close to being to winning something single-handedly as you could do. I think, again, as much as there have been good performances from a lot of people, Kluber will have been as valuable if he gives you another really good performance as you could be if he does it again tonight, because they had no chance without him.
No, it's exactly right. And I know Miller, got has been getting a lot of the love, deservedly so. But if Kluber, to what Dallas said, gives them 5 tonight, and they're tied or have the lead, I mean, come on.
And let's say it once again, the Greeny rule. Do you know who the winner of the All-Star game was this year?
Yeah, it's Corey Kluber.
Corey Kluber was the winning pitcher of the All-Star game this year, and as a result of that, he gets the ball in Game 7 tonight in his own ballpark to try and win the World Series.
And I think they're finally going to change that rule, thank God.
By the way,
it's gonna be over.
He pitched 1 scoreless inning.
Yeah.
In the All-Star game. He did face Anthony Rizzo, by the way, and he induced a ground ball out from Anthony Rizzo, and as a consequence, he is the starting pitcher at home in Game 7 of the World Series tonight. You can't ask for more. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to give you the winning word, we're going to give you the ways to enter, and you could be on your way with us to the College Football National Championship game. That's next. Mike and Mike.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
Mike and Mike, our Sports Center is brought to you by Sport Clips. Sport Clips Haircuts Help a Hero program funds scholarships for U.S. veterans who are pursuing a college degree or vocational certification. Visit your nearest Sport Clips to learn more, and you can donate now through November 11th. Okay, we have a real problem here. I mean, there's really no other way to describe it. It's time for our Mike and Mike on the road to the college football playoff sweepstakes with our endless thanks to our presenting sponsor, AutoZone, which they came to us after our last sweepstakes, our last trip giveaway, and said, what do you guys want to do differently? And we said, we want to bring more people.
Right.
They let us bring a winner a day.
I mean, we're going to have 30 people with us, 15 winners and their guests. I mean, everybody's been so great to us, so leave it to us, staff on our show, to screw it up.
Yesterday's word, which was the most entered we've ever had, was because the word was incredibly easy.
It was.
So we beg these guys, just learn from that. Make it an easy word. Make it foolproof. Make it something no one could screw up.
But they're simpletons. They live in a box, and they just said, oh, it's baseball, and it's game 7. Let's make it 7. Okay, 7 it is. Why is that a problem?
The word of the day is 7, which is also a digit. There are a lot, and now more than ever in the Twitter world in which we live, where everyone is looking to save characters.
Yeah.
What's the last time you actually wrote out the word 7?
Wait, I can write 5 letters or 1 number. What am I going to do? Don't do the number or you won't be entered.
Because Brooksy is an idiot.
Yep.
I mean, there's really no, I actually think this may almost rise to the level of being a fireable offense.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm asking of you, okay? I'm asking of you to save us from having to have a meeting.
Yeah.
At ESPN, we're very big on meetings.
Oh, yeah.
We have a meeting
for everything.
For almost everything.
Yeah, and then at the end of the meeting, there's a meeting about when the next meeting should be.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
We cannot possibly have a meeting to discuss the selection of the word. But if our numbers go down today, because a lot of you actually enter the digit 7, there's going to be a meeting.
Yeah, we don't want to go to a meeting.
I can't live with that.
They don't cater them here anymore.
I'm begging you to enter the word 7, S-E-V-E-N, both of these ways today.
Yeah.
Save Brooksy's job and save Mike and me from having to sit through 45 minutes of listening to Suits explain things, which is the worst thing that could ever happen to you. S-E-V-E-N, here are the 2 ways to enter.
Hopefully I don't confuse you more right now, because these are the only 2 ways to enter. The only 2 ways. And you can enter both ways. So text the word 7 to 777-000.
See, that makes it worse.
It
only makes it worse.
Just unbelievable. Or go online, Mike's Road to the CFP.com. Again, text the word 7 to 777-000. Or go online to Mike's Road to the CFP.com.
And enter the word 7. Please do it. Save us all. Okay, Mike and Mike, and again, with our endless gratitude, we look forward to bringing you to the championship game. But there is the little matter of a championship game.
Yes, there is.
To be played in a championship, to be settled, in a long drought to come to an end tonight. We all know that it's been since 48 for the Indians and 08 for the Cubs and everything else. Richard tweets at us, what does Kluber have to do tonight to be the series MVP? I think if he pitches 4 innings and they win, he's the MVP.
Yeah,
would you
I
agree?
Yes.
Now, maybe if Miller pitches the other 5, but, something like that. But you don't expect that. You would expect Miller to pitch a handful of innings and then you hand it on down the line. So I believe Kluber is clearly right now the favorite to be the MVP.
I agree.
For the Cubs, right now, who's trending towards being the MVP? I guess it's Chapman. Right? Is it Chapman? He saved their bacon in Game 5. He went out there and did the job last night. I mean, Russell had the big offensive night. Brian had the big offensive game, but they were doing nothing prior to that. If Hendricks pitches a great game tonight, I guess we have that conversation. He wasn't brilliant in Game 3, only pitched 4 innings. I think Chapman is probably the leading candidate to be MVP for the Cubs.
Especially if he comes in and
Does that sound right? I'm just looking around the room. I'm looking for someone to give me another idea.
I mean,
Arrieta, 2 wins.
Oh, Arrieta, yeah. Went no hit into the sixth.
They got staked to a 7-0 lead last night.
He did.
But that's fair. I mean, someone with a big Addison Russell could have a big offensive night
tonight.
Chris Bryant should be good. James tweets, since my twins were born, the Cubs have won games 5 and 6, and the Bears won. Sorry, Golick, bring out the tissue. So here's James, whose baby twins were obviously, I'm just going back in my head, would have to have been born Sunday morning or afternoon, right? Would have to have been born sometime between Saturday night when the Cubs lost Game 4 and Sunday night when they won Game 5. Since my twins were born, the Cubs have won games 5 and 6, and the Bears won. So James English has got it going on.
Congrats to him.
The English twins.
Yeah. Congrats to him on your kids. And just unfortunately, they're going to, feel the sting of defeat.
Here's a great one from Derek. Regarding your ratings talk, I couldn't care less about baseball, and I'll be locked into Game 7.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Right.
And let me tell you something, Derek. I was trying to make this point last week, and Golick, you yelled at me. What you are seeing, if you are watching this series and you are not a baseball fan, is the best thing about baseball. The best thing about baseball is not the ball flying out 9 times in a row on a hot night in August against a 5th starter. That's not what makes baseball great. What makes baseball great is you will be able to spend all day today wondering, how far does Hendricks go? At what point does Madden get itchy and have to take him out? Does he go to Lester? Does he trust the bullpen? Does Chapman come in early? How long can he go? When do we go to Miller? That's baseball. And it's fabulous. It is like chess with people, and that's what you are experiencing. That's what has made this series great. This series, Mike, has not been a series of never-ending home runs left and right. It's been what makes baseball great. Agree or disagree?
Whatever. Just enjoy the game. It's baseball. You pitch until you're not pitching well, and you get pulled and somebody else comes in. It's not rocket science, okay? We're not dealing with rocket science here, are we?
It's a little more like rocket science than you're making it sound.
It is,
yes,
huh?
It's a lot of decisions. Yes.
Strategy, I get it.
There's a lot of strategy involved. And a game that otherwise seems so simple, it actually entails an enormous amount of strategy.
Guy's giving up a lot of runs. I wonder if I should take him out of the game or not. Maybe I should.
You know what I've realized, and maybe I should have known this.
Yeah.
You're just kind of too dumb to get it. And that's why you kind of look at it that way.
And you know what else? Kluber's too good to lose. Go Tribe!
All right, Golick is ready. Good luck, everybody.
Stick it!
In Cleveland and in Chicago. Enjoy. We'll see you tomorrow. Mike and Mike.
When you're opening a new office location, but deadlines don't let up, you need to make sure your team can start working fast, which means all of a sudden, you're looking to buy new conference tables, chairs, laptops, and whiteboards quickly. Business cards from American Express Open can give you buying power to help cover the big purchases you need to make when you need to make them. Find out how American Express cards and services can help prepare you for growth at open.com.
Football lives here. After a 1-3 start, USC has won 4 straight and have their sights set on defending their Pac-12 South title.
Slash back at the 5, touchdown, Trojans.
Up next, Oregon comes to the Coliseum, averaging over 40 points per game.
Sudden change, big play for the Ducks, they take over.
Coverage begins Saturday at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio, presented by Dr. Pepper. Number 1 ranked Alabama heads to Death Valley for a huge SEC showdown against LSU.
Snap, fumble, Alabama's got the football.
Coverage begins Saturday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.